Like and subscribe right now, or this will be in your bed tonight. Hello everyone and welcome back to another video looking at the top posts from rSLASH. Before we start, please like and subscribe. To do this, all you have to do is scroll down and click the red subscribe button and the like button. This means that you will get more videos from me and it will really help me out and make my day. Thanks. Also thanks to the new person who subscribed yesterday. Fire me for BS reason? Get ready to pay up. I have been considering posting this a lot, but finally decided to do it. It happened about a year ago, in the fall of 2018. TL. Doctor will be at the bottom. I used to work at a distribution warehouse and last summer I got stress and depression that was so bad I got anxiety attacks because of it from the bad work environment. It was mainly caused by a specific employee and the CEO. I was having way more sick days than before and got asked for a doctor's note in a meeting between me, the CEO, and the guy who basically ran the company. He was great and seemed concerned about me, while the CEO more seemed annoyed that my sick days were higher than normal for me. We filled out the part of the doctor's note that is supposed to be filled by the employee and the company in collaboration, and I booked an appointment with my doctor. He concluded that I had stress and depression that caused me to have anxiety attacks, recommended that I got allowed small breaks for fresh air, very bad air quality in the warehouse, and that I went down from 35 hours a week to 20. He also recommended I got therapy. The bill got sent directly to the company, as if they request one, they're the ones to pay per law. I was pretty wound up after the appointment and called them and explained that the bill was being sent to them and I felt bad after it, so I would be taking the rest of the day if it was about 2 hours before I usually got off, and I had worked before the appointment. They were very understanding and nice. The next day I was working, I talked with the guy I mentioned that actually mainly run the place about the doctor's note. I'll refer to him as Cedric from now on, because he's a nice and friendly person. Yes, that's a Harry Potter reference. We agreed that I would have an extra day off, so that I only worked 2 days in a row between days off, that I would have a longer lunch break, to make the math add up, and that I would come in later, which was my idea as I know that's when they are most busy, which I pointed out to him. The CEO wasn't part of it because he wasn't in that day. The next Thursday I get called into a meeting with the both of them again for Friday. I assumed it was to talk about how it had worked this last week with my adjusted schedule and maybe change it slightly. The CEO was his normal unpleasant self, and Cedric seemed unusually silent and uncomfortable. The CEO went through the doctor's note with me, saying he didn't understand the part about fresh air. I explained and told him how I felt the new schedule had worked, how much better it already seemed to be for me, despite the only thing having been put in was me having Wednesday off. He then slid a piece of paper across the desk to me and informed me I was being fired. I was shocked, read the paper through, and signed it. Since there was nothing else I could do, I was given my copy of it, and then they walked with me to the warehouse, where it was announced to the others. My boss was just as shocked as me and angry, because she liked me and had not been informed. I went home after that. I contacted my union, sending them the copy I had, a copy of my contract, and explained the timeline. I wasn't working since that day, because fuck them tbh. I only came back shortly one day to give back my key and uniform and to say bye to people. I was put on a CC on every email the union employee that worked my case sent to them, and he sent every email the union lawyer sent in to me. Well, a lot of things happened through them that I won't write out in detail, but here's the bullet points. I hadn't actually been given a proper letter of termination, while the one I was given was legally binding. It wasn't actually correctly made. My assignments had slowly changed, but my contract hadn't, and was now wrong. This meant that instead of 1 month's severance, I was entitled to 3. And as this was agreed on after the 1 month was started, they were put on after that, giving me 4 months of severance pay. Since they didn't actually have a reason to fire me, it was unreasonable dismissal. Legal term translated, we could either get a settlement or take them to court. Since my union is one of the biggest here and quite strong, and the CEO realized that he knew nothing about it, he hired an attorney, very expensive, and the company wasn't going very well. The settlement was negotiated between my union and the attorney, and I was then given the choice of either accepting or taking them to court. Through a conversation with the union advisor working my case, I decided to agree to it. The company's attorney was being very slow to sign it, so it would be closed. I suspect the CEO told him due to having to pay it the next payday after it was signed by everyone. Me, the union employee working my case, the union's lawyer, the CEO, and the company's attorney. And as I mentioned, the company wasn't doing great. They had actually lost a customer the day before I was fired. In the end I got paid to be at home for 4 months and got a pretty decent sized settlement for the unreasonable dismissal and the contract not being updated. The CEO also had to state that my position in the company had been dismantled and the assignments had been spread between several employees. This was all mainly because my work had changed so much. I had basically become assistant manager. Moral of the story, be in a union, have them check your contract, and make sure your contract isn't outdated compared to what you do. TL. Doctor, I was given unreasonable dismissal, ended up with 4 months severance pay, and a decently sized settlement. Tour manager thinks he knows better than the technical stuff for a big name comedian, probably cost his job. So this happened quite a few years ago. I used to work as a senior technician for a large entertainment venue, around 2,000 standing capacity. Most of the time we would have private events etc, but this particular day a very well-known comedian was booked to do an hour at the venue. Before the show I was expected to meet with his tour manager, discuss his needs, set up stuff etc. He arrives and immediately sets the tone. Personally I think they thought they were too big to play our venue, but they clearly didn't know what they got into. Dave, won't use any of your crappy mix. He tours with his own sound system. Sure, when is it getting here? I've got it with me, the manager said in the most condescending tone ever. He proceeded to pull out a self-contained speaker system, no bigger than a suitcase. There was no way it was going to fill the first 2 rows of tables, never mind the rest of the venue, which would be at capacity that night. No problem, I can give you a tile line, so you can use our speakers. That's not acceptable. Dave will only use our speakers and mic. To cut a long story short, I spent about 15 minutes arguing with the guy who was belligerent and refused to acknowledge that his crappy system on its own wouldn't fill the venue, and there was no way I could let them do it without support from us. I explained he would have full control over the sound. My gear was there just to amplify it. I wouldn't need to touch the desk. This still wasn't good enough for him, and he threatened to pull Dave from the show. Edit for clarity, he was very aggressive and condescending. At a few points he tried to claim I didn't know what I was doing and that I shouldn't be employed by the company as I was clueless, no matter how much I explained the science etc. He tried to scare me into doing what he wanted by threatening to pull the show. There was no need for this. It was him being stubborn and trying to pull power, thinking I would back down and let him cause serious complaints for the venue because of his poor tech knowledge. He eventually backed down when I told him fine, I'd call the venue manager and explain the situation. I'd get a night off and he wouldn't get paid. Much rather that than hundreds of complaints and refunds. He backed down and we set up for the show. But he was still a jerk and the act was no better. They clearly thought they were better than us and it showed. The act even walked around backstage in his boxers into different people's dressing rooms without knocking etc. Between them they both managed to annoy everyone. I had enough. The tour manager had set up a little sound desk at the side of the stage for him to use for Dave's microphone. He was standing there throughout the show mixing his mic. Where he put himself meant he couldn't hear how it sounded, but could be seen by everyone. My lighting op and I were at the back of the room a few hundred feet away and hatched our plan. The first few minutes of the show were fine until the tour manager moved away from his desk to listen. As he walked away for some strange reason Dave's mic would feedback. He would run back to the desk, try to correct it, but it would solve itself. A couple of minutes later he would walk away and it would start to get that horrible feedback again. Nothing that the audience would notice too much, but Dave and his tour manager certainly did. The tour manager was puzzled. He couldn't understand why this was happening and Dave was getting more and more irate, glaring at his manager throughout the act. What they didn't know was that I was watching the manager, and every time he stepped away I turned up the high frequencies on my desk causing the feedback. As he got to the desk I would correct it and get rid of the feedback myself. Rinse and repeat. He got so annoyed he came to the back of the venue, barged into our control box, and looked at my desk, which of course was set naturally as we had discussed. Have you touched your desk? No mate, actually I did once. Seemed like you were struggling with feedback, so I took a bit of the top out. He walked away sheepishly back to his desk. About halfway there the mic started feeding back again, this time quite aggressively. He had to run the last 50 foot or so, which only drew more attention to him, especially from Dave the comedian. On his way out the venue I heard the tour manager being chewed out by Dave about how incompetent he was. Few years later I meet Dave at another venue I'm working at. Turns out he's a decent enough guy. Didn't mention the revenge I did on the tour manager, but told him about the gig. Turns out it was one of the last times he used that manager. One of the reasons being how bad that gig was. TL. Dr. Tour Manager thinks he can berate staff and talk down to them, so crew cause feedback during the show, so it makes the manager look bad. Turns out to be one of the reasons why he loses a job. Edit. As per the rules here, all names are fake including Dave the comedian. Please don't try and guess who they are. I won't say who out of professional courtesy and abiding by the sub rules. No double bluffs, just name picked at random. Thank you all for watching to the end of the video. But before you go, please like and subscribe for more. Not many of you at all that watch are subscribed or like the video, and this makes me unsure if I should continue to make more content or not. So if you want more content, please like and subscribe. If you don't want to miss out on any future videos, click the bell icon next to the subscribe button. Also please give me some feedback in the comment section about what I can do better, because not many people comment on my videos, so I have no idea of people's opinions of thoughts about this YouTube channel. So yeah, that's all from me. If you have subscribed and liked the video, please consider sharing the video with your friends. Thanks and bye. I'm still doing daily uploads, so hope to see you in tomorrow's video. Bye.